Tawada, Thanyan, Haman. The Lord's Prayer in the last one, Kodash, repeat the Hebrew only. Habadawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwavka, Thaba'ah, Yatazachaaq, Haya, Aisha, Baharatazah, Ka, Haya, Bashamayim, Athananawa, Lakum, Kayawum, Wasalak Nawa, Kabawathinawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kabawathinawa, Washainawa, Manrai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Wala Allah, Wala Thai Parath, Hiwalamya, Bahashem, Mashiach, Yahweh, Tawada, Thanyai, Haman. The Lord's Prayer in English, Book of Matthew, chapter 6, and verse 9.
After this manner, therefore, pray ye. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Mahashem Mashiach Yahushai, the water and yard. Amen.
Hallelujah.
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 Who's the power?
How's the power?
Who's the power?
How's the power?
Bahashem.
Yahushai.
Bahashem.
Yahushai.
Abiyahawah, please hear our prayer and receive our supplication. The water for gathering us here together, all together, Abiyahawah. The water for watching over us, keeping us safe. The water for blessing us with this glorious celebration, Abiyahawah, the Purim, where we celebrate our ancestors who fought in righteousness, Abiyahawah. Please forgive us for our transgression, and please send the righteous angels to encamp around all of us, Abiyahawah. All these things we ask and praise in your name, Yahweh, and your son, Yahweh Shai. Bahashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, the water Thanya, Amen.
Amen.
Yeshabia. Ashar Kaparium. Ashar Kaparium. Right. Happy Purim. Shar means happy. Kaparium means the Purim. So a lot of you, if you did log on to the headquarters, we did have a opening of the Purim down in Fort Lauderdale area that we went through most of the story. So I'm not gonna go through the story. That would definitely take too much time. So we are gonna touch on a few chapters in the story, a few verses, and just get the understanding on what's going on here. So as always, we open up the book of Colossians chapter 3 and verse 17. Let's open up the word of Yah.
This is the book of Colossians chapter 3, verse 17. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all by Hashem Mashiach Yahushai, giving thanks to Yahweh and the Yahweh by him.
Right. So everything we do, make sure we do it in the name of the anointed Savior, always giving thanks to Yahweh, the power that's in heaven. So let's go, just jump right to it, because the time is not on our hands, but we're going to read as much as we can. Let's look at Esther, the first chapter. The book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1.
Okay.
Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 120 provinces, that in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace.
Right, so you see he ruled over 127 provinces, and as you can see, he ruled from India all the way to Ethiopia. That's a good amount of space of land. So he was king. He ruled things. So when he put a decree out there, that's it. All right? Go ahead.
In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him.
Right.
When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days.
Right. So he was ruling over the during the Persia and the Medes during this time. This is what you consider today your East Indians. Okay. Go ahead.
And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were in Shushan, the palace, but unto the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days, in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white, green, and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple to silver rings, and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon a pavement of red, and blue, and white, and black, and marble. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Right. Also Vashti, right, the queen, made a feast for the woman in the royal house, which belonged to the king Ahasuerus.
Right. So even though Vashti, his queen, she also took charge and made a feast for all the women, right, in her quarters. So he was, of course, you see, they was doing a big party, drinking out of gold cups. When you rule, these are the things that people do. Even now, when you look at today, Esau do a lot of this still today when they're ruling, especially when they're stealing. I'm sure everybody have heard of that guy Madoff. He did a big party when he had taken everyone's money and did like a big toga party. You know what I mean? And they put those Roman and Greek wreaths around their head, and everybody come with towels and sheets on, right? So these people, they know who they are, right? And what they do is when they get this kind of money, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on parties. So this is what the nations do. This is not what Israel does, all right? Everybody understand that? Okay, read on now.
On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine.
So now, these guys are jamming 7 days. When we used to be in the world, we say, we're going to break day. And we be jamming all night. We be drinking all night. Break night or whatever. Right? We be up all night, all day, hanging out. All the way into the morning. Like, yeah, these guys are doing it 7 days straight. Can you imagine? Drinking and just having a good old time. Every man, it says what? Every man's pleasure. So whatever he desired, he wanted to be with, that's what they did, because this is what the nations do. Go ahead, Al.
On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, right, he commanded Muhammad, Biztha, Harbarna, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zithar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, right, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, right, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. Right. Go ahead. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by her chamberlains.
Right. So he told his servants to come call Vashti, go and get her, because at this time it's like, at this time everybody's partying and all juiced up. So he wanted to show off his queen and have a little dance around and show her off in front of everybody. But he called her, but she refused. Right. Go ahead.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Right. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Right. So of course he was angry because he's the king, and when he says something, you're supposed to jump. When the king says you're supposed to say how high. Right? That's it. So she decided to say, I'm throwing this party for my girls. We getting white boy wasted. Why am I going to him right now? I'm entertaining my people. Go ahead.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshina, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law? Because she have not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains.
Right, so you know when you disobey the king, what happens? Anybody knows? You get punished? They pull out a belt, give you a spanking? You get put to death? What kind of death? How? They usually, will they hang you or they cut your head off? Oh, wow, okay. Gotta do it. Just the sound of that scared me, so.
Give me a warning.
Give me a warning, right? Shing!
Michael
Right?
Myers up in here.
Right? So, you know, it's off with your head. Even though that's his wife, you know, because he could have made an example. Okay, read on.
And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen have not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes, and to all the people that are in the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes. And when it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
Right, so they're saying that at this point that this thing is going to spread, right, like an outbreak, you know, like the coronavirus. So other women will see that, wait a minute, you don't have to listen to the king, why should I have to listen to my husband? So this was a serious problem. That's why he called these men the princesses of the Persian and Medes, the guys who helped him rule from India all the way to Ethiopia. Go ahead. Read on out.
Verse 18. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
Right, so at this point, he's going to replace her. Okay? So whatever her position is, she's lost her position, and then she's going to have to leave. Go ahead.
And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire,
right,
for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small.
Right, so this is an issue that's going on amongst the nations. This should not be going on amongst our nation, because the Most High has given us the Torah. And by Torah, by law, the women are supposed to obey their husband. Everybody understand that? Right, so the nations know that. The nations wasn't given the law and statute commandments, but they know that they're what? Out of respect, the woman is supposed to reverence the husband. All right, go ahead. So he made a decree, he wrote it down, he made it law, so, you know, no woman could ever do that in their ruling. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And the same pleased the king and the princess, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house,
right,
and that it should be published according to the language of every people.
Right, so now he made sure that, you know, this doesn't happen to none of his providence, right? So he published it, he wrote it out in different languages, and he sent it out throughout all that he ruled. Today would be like an email. He said,
it'll be
yeah.
Breaking news,
right, CNN, right.
Every man should bear rule in his own house,
right,
in every language.
Right.
That was very wise of him.
Huh?
That was very wise of him.
Yeah. So, well, you know, he didn't want something to spread, and then after they will have a serious problem on their hands. Okay. Then, you know, you could look at what's going on in our neighborhood now today. That's the biggest, one of the biggest issues, that the men are not standing up being men, and the women not reverencing the man. So there's no order amongst us, amongst the nation. We don't know who we are. That's number one. That's the biggest problem. We don't know who we are. Then on top of it, we don't have respect for one another. It's black on black crime. We hate one another, but we love the nations. So this was the beginning of it. He saw what was going to happen. He saw the future. So that's why he made that decree and made sure that none of this was going to happen while he ruled. Okay? So due to the process of time, we're going to have to skip a little bit further along in the story. But when you do get a chance, please go over this story. This is a very good book, the book of Esther. It shows a lot of bravery with the sister, and of course her uncle, which took over her like as if she was his daughter, okay, because both her parents were gone. So the scriptures tell us to be the father to the fatherless, right? And he told us to watch over the widow. So he said, be mindful that we don't curse the widow or curse the fatherless, because he said he will make us fatherless, right? So the Most High, he doesn't like that, right? He said he'll get hot, 0 to 100, right? So we're gonna skip a little bit further into the story, right? Try to jump a little bit ahead, and start at chapter 9, verse 1. Let's look at 9 and 1. So a lot of things happen in between what we just read into now. But like I said, because of the process of time, we know we have children here, everybody has to go to work and school. We definitely could go over this at a later date. Okay?
Where do you want to go?
Chapter 9, verse 1.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 1.
Okay.
Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar.
Right. So what month are we in today? We're in the month of Adar. All right. This is the 12th month. A lot of times people think the 12th month is December. All right. Which is not true. The 12th month of Adar, we are in it right now. Is what they call February. Right? Which is supposed to be like Black History Month, which is the shortest month of all the months. Right? So we're in the 12th month, which is called Adar. What's the next month after Adar? Right. What's Abib? That's the first month of the year. Okay. Very good. But this year, we have another Adar, actually. So next month, we're going to have another Adars, too. Okay? I'll explain. No, but we have 2 Adars this year. Okay? So, with that being said, we have 2 Adars, so that will leave the month of Abib will come later into April. Okay? Because the month of Abib have to fall somewhere around along the spring. Okay? So that means the Passover must be in the spring. Everybody understand that? Okay? Go ahead,
Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, and the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had ruled over them, that hated them,
right?
The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
Right. So Mordecai, we stood up along with his niece, right? And what they did was, Haman was one of the men who were against the Jews, right? Who wound up tricking the king to sign a decree to put the Jews to death. But of course, At this time, Esther stood and she fasted along with the nation, and got the Most High on our side. See, with fasting and prayer, when we do it together, then the Most High will hear our cry. That's what got us out of Egypt. The Most High heard our cry. The reason why we still here because we're not crying loud enough, right? We still here in America because we are not crying loud enough, and our people are not being awakened. At this particular time during the Persian and Medes, we were in captivity as a nation of Israel. We knew who we were. Today, we don't know who we are. Okay? We look at one another as an enemy. Okay? The day that we wake up, that's the day that the Most High, and we cry out, that's the day that the Most High is going to come and subdue our enemy overnight. Go ahead, read on. Verse 4.
Verse 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
Esther 9:4. For Mordecai was great in the king's house,
Right.
and his fame went out throughout all the provinces, for this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater.
Mm-hmm.
Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword,
Mm-hmm.
and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them.
Right. So they hated us like they hate us today, right? But when the Heavenly Father returns and we go back into His grace, He's going to give us that power to slay our enemies. Go ahead.
And in Shushan, the palace, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men.
Mm-hmm.
And Pashandatha, Datha, and Dalphon, and Aspatha, and Paratha, and Adalia, and Aridatha, and Parmashta, and Arisaiah, and Aridai, and Vajestatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hamedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they. But on the spoil laid they not their hand.
Mm-hmm.
On that day the number of those that were slain in Shushan, the palace, was brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan, the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now, what is thy petition?
Mm-hmm.
And it shall be granted thee, or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan, to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
Mm-hmm.
And the king commanded it so to be done. And the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons.
Right. That's a lot of power that woman had. Right. She asked the king to say, listen, these guys got to pay because they was about to wipe out the whole nation. That was Haman's whole plan, to take over the whole nation, to wipe out all the Jews. He's going to wipe us all out. Be none of us around. So he has to pay, and not only he's going to pay, but his family going to pay along with it. So they made sure, Esther made sure, say, he going to hang along with his sons. Go ahead.
And then what could possibly happen if they still stay alive?
Right.
In
What
the
happened?
future, they may want to avenge their father.
That's right.
And get revenge. So she thought like how the mafia be thinking.
Right.
How the mob be thinking. You got to take them all out.
That's right. Don't leave nothing alive.
Right.
Nobody could come back for you. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 15.
15. Right.
For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day,
Mm-hmm.
also of the month, Adar,
Right. Well, that's the month we in. Adar. Read.
and slew 300 men in Shushan.
Mm-hmm.
But on the prey they laid not their hand.
Mm-hmm.
But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies,
Mm-hmm.
and slew of their foes 70 and 5,000.
Right.
But they laid not their hands on the prey.
Mm-hmm.
On the 13th day of the month Adar, on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
Right. So because we conquered our enemy, so they made it a feasting and gladness, and this is why we're coming here today, to feast and be in gladness and be in mirth. Mirth in Hebrew means laughter, right? So we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a few drinks, and the children are gonna have fun too, also. Okay, read on.
Verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same, they rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
Right.
Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day and of sending portions one to another.
Right.
And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in the provinces of the king, Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor.
Right. So what they did was send portions and gifts one to another. They made sure they wrote down and made this a law, a decree, right, to all throughout the provinces, to make sure that we all stayed in tune, that on the 13th and the 14th day of the month, that we keep this, okay, in remembrance of our forefathers, who at that particular time, who fast and pray. They fast and pray for 3 days. Everybody, the whole nation fast, right, and pray to the Most High. They afflicted their soul. You know, when you fast and you deprive yourself from food, your spirit gets closer to Yah. So Yah heard their prayer and their supplication and delivered them out of trouble, using the sister Esther, right? Now we almost never give our daughters away to another nation, but this particular time, this was something that the Most High allowed. Okay? See, the Most High, He knows the script. He knows what's going on. So what He'll do, He'll make sure that He'll interact with this thing and probably send someone, because He could use anyone as a vessel. It doesn't matter, man or woman. If you remember during the time that He kept asking Balaam to curse Israel. Remember, Moab kept asking Balaam to curse Israel. What happened? He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He was riding on the donkey, and what happened? The Most High sent an angel down there. Balaam didn't see the angel until the end. So the Most High could use anybody. So He used Esther, right? And the people believed in her and believed in Mordecai. Okay, read on.
John, and you mind if I start real quick?
Go ahead.
When y'all get a chance, y'all can see, you can actually read the prayers by Esther, the fasting prayer she said, and the fasting prayer that Mordecai said in the Apocrypha, and the editions of Esther.
Right.
And when you read her prayer, which is very important, what Minister just said, she understood that she hated the heathen.
Mm-hmm.
She said this in her prayer, that she understands how the Most High hates the heathen, and she understands that she's not supposed to be near the heathen.
Right.
But you know, it was spiritual. She also acknowledged how she hates her royal power that she had.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I'm saying? So it didn't let her, just because she had that power and that access to the king, it didn't ruin her. It didn't taint her to try to, you know what, maybe I should just, live this lifestyle. She every day she'll go to sleep and hated the position that she was in. Mm-hmm. But she understood that, the heathen, that the Most High hated the heathen.
Okay.
Verse 23.
Okay.
And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. Guess what? When it said, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Haggite, is the enemy of all the Jews, not only was he an enemy because of the story, but guess what seed line he come from? Does anybody know? Esau. His father come from the Amalekites. Ezekiel 35:5. These guys got a perpetual hatred for Jacob.
That's right.
It makes a lot of sense, right? It's a spiritual battle all the time.
That's right.
But this man's an Edomite. He couldn't stand to see Mordecai in that gate. But I don't want to go too deep.
Go ahead.
And I'll read that part again. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows.
Right. So this also reminds me of the time of Pharaoh, because remember the last plague was Moses told him, they said, this last one that you do on the children of Israel is going to be on your own head. So that's why when he went to say to kill the firstborn of the Jews, what happened? The Most High smoked the firstborn of the Egyptians, and he smoked the firstborn of the cattle. So it didn't matter. The Most High smoked everything that was the firstborn. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 26.
Mm-hmm.
Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of Pur.
Right.
Therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to the appointed time every year.
Mm-hmm.
And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation.
How many generations?
Every generation.
Right, every generation. That's why we're keeping it today. We're going to continue this on. We're going to rehearse the righteous acts. We're doing it also because we're commanded to do it. So now as our children grow up and we grow old, they will be commanded to do it also. Okay? But if we're keeping Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, they're going to continue in that garbage. Right? They're going to continue in wickedness. So we got to show them the way. Right? What the scriptures say, raise up a child. Right? In the way of the Most High. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, it's my favorite month. My born day.
There you go.
Get some gifts from Purim.
Get some gifts from Purim.
Double whammy, man. It's better than
double whammy.
Christmas, man. The heck with that.
Right, it's better than Christmas, better than Easter, better than getting some egg. Now, I like eggs, but, right? This is better than that because, this is something that our ancestors were actually fought and fast and prayed to the Most High and cried out. And the Most High heard their prayer and answered them and delivered them out of trouble. Go ahead.
Every family, every province, and every city.
Mm-hmm.
And that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews.
Right.
Nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Mm-hmm. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them. And as they had decreed for themselves, for their seed, the matters of the fastings, and for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book.
Right. So as you see there, they said what they did, the fastings and the cry, because those are very important. The fasting and the cry to the Most High, to ask Him to forgive you for your transgression and to deliver you out of this captivity. That should be in our prayer every single day. If you're not praying to get out of this captivity, then something is wrong. Something must be wrong with you. Every day you should be praying to get out of here. Not praying to hit the lotto so you could be here longer. Not praying to get a big house and a big car and a big woman. Right? These are the things that we shouldn't be praying for. A lot of times we pray for things, and the Most High already know what we need before we even pray for it. He knows already. Remember what Solomon's prayer was. Remember, he never asked for riches. He just asked just for enough food for him to eat, man. Just for him to get by. And he was the richest king ever. So, we should not be praying for the lotto. The Most High know we need money. But we should pray for our people to be delivered out of this captivity. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right, with that being said, we're not going to read on. Like I said before, you can read this whole story. This is a very good story, especially to the children. I believe they do have a cartoon of it out, right? And they do have a movie, which is pretty good. And you can watch and get the children and interact with them. And there's children books on Esther, showing how we prevail against our enemies. So with that being said, I would like to thank everyone for coming out and keeping the last day of Purim, the closing of Purim. And please be ready for the month of Abib and the month of the Passover, which the Passover this year is April 14th, which will be held down in Fort Lauderdale. I suggest you prepare, get ready to get your tickets, start preparing to stay overnight, because the Passover is a very large gathering. Con? Last year I believe we have over 250 people there. So, I believe that, we should be prepared for this Passover, okay? And hope and pray. We should be praying that this should be our last Passover here in America. That the next Passover we have should be in Jerusalem. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Right? Because I don't think that we should be here any longer in this captivity. That we have to work every day, and our children will grow up to do what? To get educated to work. Right? So we should be praying for our redemption every day. Con?
Con.
All right, with that being said, we're going to set up the closing prayer. We're going to bless the food, bless the wine, and we're going to enjoy and cast lots and purr. That's playing games. That Haman played a game on the children of Israel to put them to death. You know what I'm saying? So the Most High, he's not going to take that lightly. You're not going to kill his people just like that. So we're going to celebrate. We're going to play games, and the children, we have some games for the children, and we're going to sit back and enjoy ourselves on this day. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right, with that being said, we're going to set up the prayer Shalom to the nation of Israel, and we got next. Hallelujah.